So I kind of like, I was anxious to go on this trip. And especially like it was only me and my sister who was maybe about 12 or 13. I was about like 8. So we just got on a plane, just me and my sister, and it was my first time on a plane. We flew, it was about a 4 to 5 hour flight to Mexico City. And we arrived in Mexico City and got picked up by a family friend, complete stranger to me and my sister. And he drove us to meet my aunt. And it was my first time meeting my aunt. And from there, we took about like a 6 hour bus trip to the state my aunt lives in. My aunt's a school teacher, so I did get to hang out around like other kids because she brought me along. So most of the time when I stayed with my aunt, I went to school pretty much. We took I wanted this one. It was like a 12-hour bus ride to my uncle's house, which is where my mom grew up. So that was kind of interesting seeing where my mom grew up because it's a very poor part of Mexico. There's no AC. There was no plumbing even. Um, and I hated it. Like I didn't like being there. It was like scorpions everywhere. But it really gave me perspective for the first time on where my mom came from. We went to another aunt who was a nun. So that was another interesting side of the trip, was having to go to church every day in like super Catholic part of Mexico. Staying in a church and but the city where my aunt lived was really nice and the weather wasn't too bad. It was around 70 degrees. So that was probably my favorite part of the trip, which is kind of weird because kids really don't like to go to church, but it ended up being my favorite part. After that, we went to Mexico City for like 2 or 3 days before we had to leave. All in all, it was like a month. Like it wasn't until like after the trip that I was like, wow, like this is where I come from. Like that's like my family, which I've never met. Those are like these people that like I'm so connected to, but I never knew like what they look like or what they were doing or what they like it was a interesting trip. My mother being Mexican really influenced almost the entirety of my like early life. Uh, like when I grew up, I was only around like family and other Mexicans, so it wasn't until like elementary school where I really like started to experience people of different backgrounds. After I went to Mexico for the first time, it really kind of motivated me to learn about other cultures and look deeper into my own culture after experiencing it for the first time. I think it was really important for me to go on that trip to learn about how people live there because it's a lot different than here, especially the parts I visited. It kind of helped me take things less for granted. And I'm always like looking up videos of Cuba and like looking at documentaries on Netflix because it's really different than Mexico and Mexican culture, and it's something I'm still really curious about, and I am gonna explore it in the future.
Being a single mother was hard, um, especially having 3 children, one with the special needs, but it was manageable and it was okay, I guess. I want him to learn the language. That was one of my biggest um, thing because I want all of them to be able to speak both language fluently. One of the other things I want him to be able to meet my family, the family that they cannot travel to this country, um, get to know what is to be at a home, not having all the comforts that we have here. Sometimes it is difficult, especially when they don't understand why are you doing certain stuff. So yeah, different point of views, especially. Sometimes I like back in back home, my parents will ask me to do something, and you just like do it here. And then here it's like kids, they have more freedom.
Right.
No, I'm being very open with them. I've been trying to teach them my customs, the way that I was raised. So they like it. I mean, from my previous, my oldest daughter, how I want her to feel more Mexican than American. And then she was bullied, and like one of the examples, I didn't celebrate Thanksgiving because I thought Thanksgiving was only for American and I feel so Mexican. But one day she was telling me that at school they were asking her why she doesn't celebrate, and she wanna celebrate because she wants to talk about what happened. So um, that's why I will raise him more American than Mexican. Yes, I think more mature, and his language was that Spanish was better, and probably he appreciate more what he has, like his own room, his own bed.